Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Bad Idea Bros. So in the last one you saw me tearing down the red Nifty 50 and finding a few problems that needed attention and some parts that needed ordering. Well, the good news is that all the parts I've ordered have finally arrived. That means I can get back into this thing. So the plan for today is to basically rebuild the motor with a new gasket set. I've got the new battery that's arrived, I've got some paint and some bits and pieces so I can get this thing looking as good as I hope to be able to. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. I'm really excited for this one. Hopefully the bike should be looking $1 million by the end of it. Alrighty, so these parts have just been sitting on my bench waiting for some attention for a while. The only thing I was really able to do was to clean up all the gasket surfaces. As you can see, they're all nice and smooth and polished, ready to go for the new gaskets. I've cleaned up the plastics, nothing too dramatic there. I still do have to clean the carburetor. And this thing does actually have a split in it, so the air intake tube from the box. So I am going to need to do something about replacing that. I do have a plan. I'm watching an item on my auction site at the moment, so hopefully I can win that, and that will solve the problems for the genuine parts I need. So the exhaust is passable but very rusty, so we're going to give that a once over today as well. And the wheels, well, they're basically just a really sort of shoddy grey. I guess that's possibly the standard colour on these. They all seem to have that, so they're going to get some attention too. Right guys, let's dive into this engine rebuild first, as that's probably the most important thing. Alright, so that's got the cylinder head tension down now. So it's all factory settings. What I'm going to do is turn the motor over by hand just to make sure that the piston turns freely using the fan here. That'll do two things. Just to make sure that the piston's travelling in the bore the way it should be, and if it's got good compression we should hear it pop out the exhaust and then almost immediately suck from the intake around the back. So I'm going to stop talking and we're going to see what we can hear. Right, so that piston moves very freely, and hopefully you guys could hear it popping out the exhaust port here and the wee suck on the intake port around the back here. So I'm really happy with that. That's gone quite well. The next part will be basically to put this back in the scooter's frame and then start putting new parts on. Alrighty, so it's time to action these parts now. As I mentioned, the wheels are some sort of dodgy grey silver colour. May have been painted over the original paint, but I'm not 100% sure. Got the super rusty exhaust, and this belt cover is all torn up, stained, scratched. Not the best. So what I'm going to basically do is strip all these back to bare metal. I've picked a particular colour for the wheels that is either going to work or not. It's a bit of a risk, but I like the idea, so we're going to give it a crack. The exhaust will get ceramic coating. That's basically got to be taken all the way back to bare metal. All this rough black paint that's left, that needs to come all off so that the ceramic coating will stick to the metal appropriately. And that's going to be a bit of a nightmare because this is really, really rusted. So I think what I'm going to have to do is probably sand it to the best that I can, rust treat it, and then sand it again. Sounds a bit crazy, but I don't want to have to do this again. And this guy here may have been dropped at some stage because this engine cover is real torn up on the most outward facing pieces, and obviously we've got all the scratches, so that's going to take a lot of sanding, but I'm sure that I can get that smooth again. So I'm not going to bore you guys with the details of that. I will probably just, I don't know, show you what it looks like when it's done. Alrighty, so that's all the parts all done. Obviously did off camera, didn't want to time lapse forever just to get these things done. Really very happy with how this engine cover's come up. You can't see any of the scratches that were formerly on there, and the anodized silver looks great. So I did do all this here. It's just the pressure can you would have seen in the parts earlier in the episode. Same with the exhaust, so I used the same paint for the heat shield, and everything else is done in the ceramic black coating, which I'm really happy with. Now the wheels, kind of the thing that you either love or hate, I suppose. I've gone for ultra gloss white, purely because the bike's red and I like the look of red vehicles with white wheels, and it does have the Boy Racer white writing on the tyres, just for something a little different, a bit of fun for this one. So now that that's all done, it is time to fit them to the bike and see how it's going to look. Alright, so that's more or less got the Nifty 50 back together. Obviously all the body panels are still off of it. I've realised I have no carburetor cleaner, so I can't actually do the rebuild on the carby, which is a rookie mistake. But it is what it is, so I'm going to have to go and find some of that and do that job before I can try and test the Nifty. But you guys might be wondering where I've gotten all the parts from for this thing. Well, all the paint and stuff is obviously just from the local auto stores, but the physical Honda parts that I needed, same as Josh. I bought a parts bike. So that guy there, the price of that still kept me under the $1,000 budget that we were going for on these bikes. It's a non-runner. It's not actually as good as it looks. It's reasonably worn out. But I'm not really sure what to do with it now that I've harvested the parts. So if you guys would like to see me do a full restoration on that one, like maybe a bit more in depth, let me know in the comments below, because I'm sort of umming and ahhing whether I bother to muck around with it or if I just sell it on again as a parts bike now that I've gotten what I need off of it. Alright guys, so my run to the parts store was successful, so we can now look at doing something with the carburetor. Get that drain line off. So basically I'm going to take these two Phillips head screws out and take the automatic choke or electric choke. Have a little bit of a look to see what it's going to look like. Alright, so that's the needle that I was saying about before. So basically when you get a current across this thing, that needle retracts and extends, just like that. And that's how the choke works on these things. And lastly, we're going to pull the float bowl off, just to have a look at the float, the main jet, just see what it all looks like. Alright, it's actually in really good condition in there, that's not too bad. The float looks alright. Basically all I'm going to do is take this little container and take my carburetor cleaner and just give this thing a really good dousing. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Alright, so now that we've got the carburetor all cleaned up and sorted and we've got the new electric choke on there, it's time to refit it to the bike. So basically the little manifold that's here is where they fit to, and we've got the wee, I suppose, spacing gasket or something along those lines that goes on there. But first what we need to do is get the air neck or nozzle onto the throat of the carby. Basically what happens here is there's normally some sort of fastener. I didn't have one on this bike, and the parts bike was also missing what was there. So I'm just going to use a Jubilee clip. Might not be the prettiest solution, but it should help seal. Got the drain tube. That just has its own little space down in the casing here. It's all going to be a bit of a juggle, unfortunately, trying to get this on, because there's not a heck of a lot of space here. So that's got the carburetor fitted. I figured because I'm doing everything that I have been, I may as well get rid of that haggard looking little piece of hose, fuel hose that it did have on there, and treat it to a new bit. So while I was down getting the carburetor cleaner and such, I've got some new hose and some new hose clamps. Alrighty, that should be that. The last job is to just fit the new battery. So as I've said in the previous episode, I prefer a gel battery over the old lead acid, mainly because you can fit them in any orientation. It doesn't matter where they go on the bike, and they survive a lot longer. So this one is just a direct replacement for the battery that was in the bike, which is why it's a direct bolt in. So once this is in, the exciting stuff happens, which is where I get to see if this little bike is going to start. That's everything done on the bike theoretically. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, but I have to admit, really quite happy with how those white rims with the white writing on the sidewalls have come up on this bike. It looks really good. But now for the nervous part, because we've fitted the battery, it's time to see if it's going to start. And this is very literally first start, so petcock on. Hopefully there should be fuel draining down that line now, and I don't see any leaks, which is excellent. We'll give that carburetor a little chance to fill up. The rear brake needs to be initiated for the start switch to work, so that's that done. We'll flick the key on. Alright, that's a good sign. We've got a tail light, and fingers crossed this is going to work. Wow! That is no joke, the first start, guys. Literally first start. Wow, I am so stoked with that, so very pleased. That is, in all honesty, the first time I touched the start switch on that. I can't believe that just picked up so quickly. Wow, that's so cool. I'm really happy with that. Initially, the bike, when I got it, was starting and idling, but not that well. That has just kicked off really excellently. So I guess I will chuck the side covers back on, put the seat back on, and give it a little test ride. I'm genuinely pleased with that. Well guys, I am exceptionally happy with how this little scooter's turned out. That was a big day of work, but I now have a running bike again. So obviously the gaskets and that sort of thing, it was a minor rebuild, it wasn't anything too dramatic. Getting the wheels sorted was quite a lot of prep, as was the little belt cover that you can see behind me there, but it was all really worth it. The bike looks $1 million. It started first go. I can't believe that. That was genuine. That was genuinely the first time I hit the start switch was while you guys were watching that. So over the moon, absolutely ecstatic. I really can't wait to go for a pest on this thing now. So that's hopefully what you'll see in the next one is Josh and I getting on our little Nifty 50s and going and causing a bit of havoc. As always, guys, I thank you so much for following along with this. I'm very excited by this episode, and I can't wait to bring you some more. Thanks, guys. Bye.